So the other day,
This is Auto Collabs.
I got in the mail this right here. It's a card. I have a story here. This is
Explain it
it's
for the people who are just
$100,
listening.
like Visa card. I'm
Oh,
covering
good.
the numbers because I actually want to use it.
Shoot, I was just ready to get my screenshot ready.
And I just I know. I just want to explain to the people. Like, so we set up this the home security system.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, "Oh, we're gonna install this, but it's basically free because you get $100 gift card." I was like, "This is awesome. I'm gonna do it."
There's a subscription on the other end of this, I can tell.
No, it's not a subscription. Now I did it because I wanted to be able to tell this story at some point because I got this in the mail yesterday. Y'all, I had to mail in for that rebate. Like I had to write things down.
Yeah, because
on
they're
a
like,
piece
we're
of
going to make
paper.
it hard for you to get the rebate.
He's going to get a CD subscription delivered back to him from
Columbia House
Columbia
incoming.
House.
You're getting Pearl Jam, Nirvana. Who
That's
else?
exactly what
Shania Twain.
You remember that?
He's going
And
to
the great news is I'm gonna have to ship it back, just like all the Netflix DVDs that they were doing. Too.
You know what?
It's
The best part about this intro to this interview is I bet that Andrew Diffenderfer, a.k.a. Diff, had a Columbia House subscription in his day. He was the guy with
Absolutely.
the 200
You're exactly right.
CD folder with all the CDs that you'd hit the road trip and you'd be like, what am I going to listen to? I got my 200 favorites right here.
He's in his van. He's
that
like,
guy. He might still
"Yep,
have it.
got that one."
He might still have it. I saw a TikTok the other day, or no, it was an Instagram reel, and the guy was driving. He's like, people are worried about distracting driving. He's like, this was me in 1997. And he's like looking down, trying to flip through his CDs, trying to figure out which one, like trying to get the disc in the player. I was like, touche. But either way.
No, it's in disc 5. It's in disc 5, right?
Oh man, multi-disc CD changers were a game changer.
The safest ones were in the trunk. Remember those?
Yeah.
Wow.
Who came up with that idea? Let's put them in the trunk. You got to preload your favorite 6, and then they're just in there.
Diffenderfer did.
Diff did. And so can you. We hope you enjoy our conversation with Andrew, the founder of Foundation Direct, one of the smartest, most hardworking guys in the industry. Really has a long path through serving in OEMs and then retail, all this stuff. Always insightful and it's fun. He's like an old friend, which is why we can give him this intro. Right? We've had many interviews with Diff, but maybe it's your first time. So we know you're going to enjoy meeting him just like we enjoy having conversation with him. Hey, Andrew, thank you so much for giving us some time. It's awesome to have you again on the show.
Thank you. It's always good to see you all. Thanks for having me.
He said Andrew, and I was like, when did we invite Andrew to the show?
Well, like it's Diff, right? That's why the name's
Diff
on the screen. But, a lot of people are going to meet you for the first time. You guys are growing like a weed. And so if we've all heard correctly, you have now traversed the gap between vendor and dealer. Am I right?
That is correct. You are
Technically,
correct
that's
in that statement. Yeah, technically that is correct. With the one and only Mr. Brian Benstock. Yes, it's been a real
So you went full send. Right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna play in the deep end of the pool, right? It's a really I'm very humbled and thankful for the opportunity. Many people know Brian and I, or don't know, Brian and I started working together in 2010, and really just formed he's been a huge impact on my life, from just a personal perspective, a mentor, and to be partnered with him doing what I love. I started my career in a Honda dealership in central Pennsylvania at Antrim Way Honda. Ironically, one of our other good friends, Liza Borches, was the district sales manager of that store.
Oh, no
So,
way.
It's all coming together, right? And Brian told me one day, he's like, someday we're gonna have a dealership together. And I was like, man, that'd be awesome. And I love Honda. So to be in there and really having the opportunity to see what we as vendors, partners, technology companies can do for a dealership firsthand, and then feed that back into my company Foundation to really serve dealers. I think, I believe that our number one job as a partner, vendor, whatever it is is to build meaningful and lasting relationships with those that we serve, period. At the end of the day, like, you can create a slide deck. And when you can see those efforts translate into changing, the way people do things with their family and, having a better service experience, it's really cool. So it's full circle. So thank you for acknowledging it.
I love, okay, so I'm like, as you're saying this, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, so checking in, like vendors really having the ability to like dig deep, back, like the originator of this, you probably remember this because you've been in the industry a hot minute, but the originator of this was dealer.com.
Mm-hmm.
Like their home offices were across the street from a dealer.
Yes.
And all of their training had to happen through dealer.com. And then like one of the most recent ones is Techion bought a dealership because they were like, hey, best place to practice, right in the dealership. Now it's like Foundation Direct. Now, indirect partnership, it's not Foundation Direct buying a dealership or anything, but obviously a leading partner, you get the ability, the insights to go, oh, okay, so that's how that's impacting day to day, right? Like what me or the connected, because you are a data and ads company, like you have a purview into all these other partners that dealers are using. And so it requires you to kind of have the understanding on the impact, not just on like the digital analytics, but the offline analytics too, right? What have there been kind of like key things, like initial learnings? You're like, oh shoot, hadn't thought of that in a hot minute.
Yeah, 100%, right? I mean, we sync every morning. My day starts with going over yesterday's business at the dealership. I think it's kind of like a good way to get your head back in the game and remember why we're doing what we're doing. Brian is, as you know, he's as good at this as anybody. He continues to just push it. I think we finished 77th in the nation last month, which is out of Honda dealers, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
And yeah, there's a ton of that, right? Because what you spend on per car sold from a marketing expense becomes a real number, right? And when you're sitting down, it's interesting how the
You're
world.
like, oh, that was my pocket.
Hold on. Are you sure we needed those new chairs in the customer waiting lounge? I kind of like the old
Benstock started on customer or employee lounges.
So, and it's just been, there's so much. I think when you step back and look at the industry that we serve, right? I mean, you guys are getting ready to put on a great event for the industry. But when you go into the dealership, and I'm up there a good bit, when you go into the dealership and you walk around and you start looking at like, why don't we have enough paper towels in there? Like, why is there a fingerprint on that door? And you really begin to remember like everything that goes into a store. Like, why didn't somebody get the weeds cleaned up after we had the mulch put in the flower beds? And you look at the impact. Yeah, right. When you look at the impact, right, it's like, holy cow, man, these things dealerships are very complex. And I think we often in the industry focus on the pain points, right? But there's a lot that dealerships do really, really, really well. And let's talk about the business side of it for a second. Is usually dealerships, because of the money that they contribute to the community, are a large part of the tax base. They're also a large employer. So like you've kind of forget like the local dealerships that serve your community, they are very integrated in what happens in that community. And I think, it's interesting for me, having worked with Paragon for so long. White Plains is in Westchester, but they're very different markets that have very different needs. And it's just fascinating to me. I think one of the things that always attracted me to this industry is that the owner of Greg Weaver of Antrim Way Honda, where I started my career, he said the beauty of a dealership is that you have 7 businesses in one. He's like, I can teach you business of 7 businesses in one business if you want to learn it. And I mean, you think about it, you got finance, right? You got used, you got new, you got parts, you got fixed, you got a body shop. I mean, those are all businesses that I would love to have, but when you get a dealership, you get all of those. And it's just fascinating. I think this industry I believe it's the best industry that anyone can be involved with. I think you can learn the most. I think nothing has prepared me for life better than working in dealerships, because I feel like I had a head start when I even went to grad school, because I was like, oh, I've worked with this in parts obsolescence. And you're like, why do you know what that means? And then I take that one step further. And, with Foundation's partnership with NCM and now kind of standardizing digital measurement for NCM, and helping dealers understand how their data can unlock profitability in a dealership is just really cool. Like I mean, it's the best of all worlds.
So yesterday, Paul and I, we're shooting this More Than Cars series, ASOTU, right? And in the lead, we're like the largest retail industry in the country. And I was like, man, I just want to make sure we back that up, right?
You've been saying it
Fact
for a
check
long
that.
time.
So I went to a few sites and I found like 3 confirmations. There was like, it was either 4 or 5 on the total industry list in the US, but in just retail, there was no one else that hit the top 10.
New car dealers are what, number 5?
New car dealers were number 5, like 4 or 5, depending on the site that you looked at. And that's the reason, is because like we have multiple retail industries injected into a single industry. And like the reason I'm tying that back is you said like back to the, paint on the walls and mulch in the front. So often as just anybody, like a consultant or a dealer or a fixed ops manager or a service manager, like the phrase starts like this: if that dealer would just, right, whatever the just is, and you're like,
You
no,
just said just.
You don't understand. There's no just in dealer world. There's like
No.
83 justs in each company.
It's like a contractor. Hey, could
every
you
hour.
just move that window half an inch?
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Yeah. So it's been really cool. Very humbling. Love it. And so thankful for it. So more to come,
Yeah.
What's the, at the end there, you said like you guys have recently formed a partnership with NTM and are working to standardize the model of looking at digital analytics. And there's a lot of talk around standardization, right? We've got talk around standardization of APIs with the STAR standards, standardization of GA4 events with the ASC Standards Council, NCM being a massive trainer and 20 group representative across the industry looking to standardize digital metrics. Where have you seen like the biggest gaps and the things that maybe as an industry we're asking for, but become very, very difficult as we plug in all of these inputs?
That's a really great question, because I think
Thank you.
we were talking about buzzwords, and standardization is one of those buzzwords now. Like everybody, it's like, I want to standardize this. And I think I think COVID, and thanks a lot to you guys too, from starting just what you do. I think there's a lot more collaboration in our space versus competition, which I think is the most powerful thing that we need as an industry, because again, sitting on multiple different areas of this fence, there you go, collaboration, right? It always wins. Is that when you begin to look at these things, I think the old sentiment was, let me tell you how much I know, so that you trust me that I'm smart and that I'm just gonna hit you with all these stats, right?
Or at least confuse you enough that you believe
know
I must know
things.
more than you.
Like, let me just go deep on let me talk about schema.org. I mean, like, we all went down this stuff and how sites should be built and what organic means. Now people are sort of like, yeah, I get it. I need a website. I know that there's 4 major traffic driving sources or whatever it may be. What I've found is that where we've been very successful in talking to our dealers, we're going to have about 600 dealerships on this composite platform by the end of the year. And where it's been really helpful is learning from the NCM moderators. Like today, we're going to talk about fixed coverage. They pick one topic, they look at who's the best at it, and then they collaborate in the room to figure out a way to bring everyone up to that level. And that is not easily done if you're not measuring everything the same way. A financial statement measures everything. Gross profit is gross profit. Like you can't be like, well, my version of gross profit's this and yours is that. And we had a little bit of that from the measurement perspective in the space, because it was sort of like, well, it's Google Analytics and we got to do it. I think it's great now as we can sit down and be like, hey, Paul, here's the deal, man. Like, you run a very profitable dealership, but the guy who's not as profitable as you, he has a 31% service appointment booking rate. Like, what if you had your profitability plus a 31% service booking rate? Like, that's 1 + 1 = 3. So that's where this standardization has become very, very impactful. Also is, we were talking about a marketing person at a dealership. People aren't sitting there trying to understand if their chat conversion stopped firing in their Google Analytics 4 account because that talks to their ads account. In the weeds, they don't care about it. But what will happen is if the website provider shows that there was a decrease in leads because that tool stopped working, the dealership gets fired up. So we've really been able to collaborate with website providers and partners that work on these websites. Say, hey man, the chat thing went away. Did you change something in the code? Did you do an update? Did you refresh? Let's get this fixed on behalf of the dealer. So that's been like really exciting. And just I think it's been inspiring for me too, because I'm learning, from looking at this, you would think, well, if you standardize the data, there's only so much that's going to be different. And man, like we're working with some groups, they're mixed brands. They're like these general manager groups. So you have a CTGR store, a Honda store, a Toyota store, a Ford store, all in one group. And just the cool things that come out of that's been pretty powerful.
You're like, well, these guys call it used and these guys call it pre-owned, and you wouldn't believe the number of complexities that adds to a data model.
Spaces and hyphens are very important in our world.
Michael.
I was going to ask you about indoor skydiving, but I don't know if we're there yet.
Well,
He's like, I've been waiting. I have my question written out.
He's like, I've been waiting for this my whole life.
So I have a story for that. As Diff always, I always have a story for something. So
Love it.
my father-in-law is an avid skydiver and 73 years old.
Your wife is a pilot.
My wife's a pilot. Aviator. Yeah, right. Yeah. He's like, where's the door that I can jump out of? She's like, it doesn't work that way. And it's funny, when we had our second son, Kai, my father-in-law said, hey man, like I'm getting ready for skydive season. Would you want to hop in a wind tunnel with me so I can practice? Basically like hang on to you for my formation flying. I said, yeah, I think I can probably figure this out. So he taught me how to skydive at indoor skydiving over here in Loudon. And they have levels, and we just bought an hour of tunnel time, and him and I would just go over there for like 20 minutes a week and just fly around. And, as we get older, not that I'm getting older, it's fun for me. The thing that is really,
I think you're getting older.
No, not. I'm doing the Benstock thing. I'm trying to reverse age.
Yeah, when you talk about it a lot, it just kind of verifies the fact that you're getting older.
You're getting older. My father-in-law actually told me. He said, life's like a roll of toilet paper. You put it on, you think it's going to last forever, and the closer to the end you get, the faster it goes, brother. I go, yeah, that's pretty fair comment.
I've never heard that.
I was like, yeah, you're not kidding. It's
Brian's
like quick,
just gonna
man.
be like, have the bigger biceps. So
yeah. So
I'm be older, but look at this.
So Michael, to tie this back, what I love about indoor skydiving, other than the fact that Glenn Lundy let me hop into a tunnel down in,
I saw that.
I think
that.
Atlanta.
That's how I found out about it. I roll into this place and Diff's doing this. He's upside down, is doing this thing. I was like, wait, what?
He's like, excuse me, I brought my own goggles. He's like,
yeah, let's throw my helmet, guys. Hold on, I gotta get my skydiving shoes on here.
He's like, he's got the spandex on. He's ready to go.
So funny.
His shirt right there. Yeah.
But it forces this layer of awareness that you don't have when you're walking forwards, backwards, side to side, because you literally can move diagonally back, forward, and it applies a lot to business. Like you got to be dynamic, right? And just the awareness that it taught me was really, 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 really fun. And our aviation's in our family. So.
And you're like 3 inches off, unless you're going downstairs, you're probably going to make it, right? But like at the slightest move in the middle of an air tunnel, the things can maybe not go as planned. Right?
They have a lot of control. It's funny. If you drive down the road and put your hand out the window at 40 miles an hour and you do this, you feel the difference. You do it at 70 miles an hour, you got to be careful. You hit a bug like that, it's a different deal. And, I think when you're in, head down free fall, I think the max speed you can get is like 120, like something like that. But those wind tunnels, they control that variable by the speed they push up. So as you progress to like sit fly, for example, which is very difficult to do, they won't let you sit until you get on your back. Back flying is very difficult because they train you to fly forwards, up, down, sideways, around. And then they're basically like, no, get on your back and learn all that reverse. And it's just an awkward, they start you like in a chair position, but it's fun. And if you have a tunnel, I'd highly recommend that you go do it and just like, and put the time in and have some fun. You will, it's a good fun thing to do. So there you go, Michael. That's my long story on indoor
I'm still
skydiving.
waiting for Cirillo and spandex. I just need that in my life.
And a shaved beard.
Cirillo's either frozen or
I think
really
he's
angry.
just doing a great job of faking it.
It's pretty good. I'm waiting for the eye blink.
Kyle got us yesterday, though. Kyle faked a freeze, and we all jumped in.
Had you for a hot minute.
No, I think he's really frozen. He's not breathing.
He's really frozen. What's the thing that you're working on in the business right now? Particularly like in mapping vendors to dealership, right? With the new Honda store and things like that. And what you're working on is you're seeing like, oh, we have to tie all of this thing together from technology into a store. How's that going?
You know, that's such a good question, and we could talk hours about this, but you know, when I was at Google, the gentleman who kind of taught, like I worked out at the Partnerplex and stuff, and he said, big and simple always beats small and complex. And I think seeing the detail that we have of data right now, it's so complex, and I'm working on simplification and making things easier to process. Like, why do we all love iPhones, right? By the way, Friday 15th, iPhone 15 Pro, get it ordered, titanium. Not that I just ordered mine, but throwing it out there. Is, you know, the simplicity of things to do if you make it simple to do highly complex things, it provides value, in my opinion, right? So as I'm going through the dealership, I'm like, why do I have to log into 9 platforms? Like, what, like,
tell me about
it. Right? I'm literally like talking to everyone in the dealership. I'm saying to, you know, our general salesman, hey, Chris, hey, Harris, here's the deal. What are you looking at in this platform more than 5 times a day? Okay, write that down, right? What would be helpful out of this platform that you can't get to? Okay, write that down. So this simplification, because when you do that, you get more time back to go sell more cars or service more cars or talk to more customers because you're not spending time trying to find something in the tool. So that's been a big piece.
Man, I think if anybody listening to right now in this interview doesn't take back, go to each of your people and ask them what are they doing to look at a system 5 times or more a day, and how many of those can you potentially move over, eliminate, or increase the speed and efficiency of that employee? Like, that's a massive takeaway. And I think and it doesn't matter if you're at a company and you have a technology that someone uses, go ask them whether or not they're logging in 5 times a day and what are they looking at in that thing, and is that necessary and does it work for them? So I'd like, that's a perfect way to wrap this up. Diff, you're always like, we've like hit, I think 83 things at this point in this conversation. And we're so excited that Foundation Direct is partnering with ASOTU on the swag, on some thought leadership. Going to have Jessie Nespolo there, and she's amazing. The scarf looks so legit. If you're coming to ASOTU, you get a scarf with the logos and the whole 9 yards on it. It's, as always, it's been a pleasure, and thanks for joining us, Diff.
Hey, thank you guys. Keep doing what you do. You're doing such great things for the industry, and thanks for always letting us be along for the ride. So appreciate all you do, and let's keep doing good things together.
I love how often we have seen dealers venturing into technology in this time period, right? A lot of dealers, dealer groups starting to build tech products. Diff is a story that's going kind of the other way, right? Build a tech product, now is actually a partner in a dealership. And that collaboration and what we're just seeing in the industry going forward and backward is really showing itself to be effective in helping us progress faster. And,
you know what it underscores for me? How as a human species, we have no clue about anything all of the time.
I think that occurs to me just about every morning when I wake up.
Yes.
Like, because here's the thing, right? You remember 8 months ago when everyone was like, every dealership will be out of business in the next 7 years. And it's like, okay. And everybody's bowels quiver. And then we shortly after that on the show talked to Damon Lester, and he's like, I plan on buying more dealerships. Like, he's an accountant who's planning on buying. And then we're like, oh, wait a minute. And then fast forward to today, and we're not really talking about that anymore. And you've got like Asbury Auto Group, who's buying all of the dealerships right now, it seems. And they're obviously seeing something that they want to double, triple, quadruple down on. And then to your point, you got Diff like, nah, I think now would be a good time to enter the retail game. And so I just feel like we don't know anything most of the time, and everyone needs to calm down. And Diff is leading the way.
Yeah, and I love
He's
like
pretty chill.
you listen and he's like, yeah, we just have these regular check-ins every single day. We look at all the business. I go into my team members, say, are you using the things that we built for you? Like that's the regular things of business that keep business open. And I think even just in auto, a lot of times we look at like grand ideas, big things. What are we going to do next? What's everyone on the horizon? And it's like, no, customers want you to do really well today for them, and that's what that underscores to me, that
And
like, if you do the right things really well today for people, whether it be your customers or your employees, you're going to succeed. Well, hey, we hope that you enjoyed this conversation as we did with our friend Diff. On behalf of myself, Michael Cirillo, and Paul J. Daly, we'll see you next time here on Auto Collabs. Welcome to Auto Collabs. Why are we recording?
Are we rolling?